Hey, what is up, mortals? Stan here, and before we get to today's video, I would like to say a few things first. I'd like to let you all know that we have a merch store, and some of the items in it are only available for a limited amount of time, so if you're interested, go in the description and check it out. Each purchase helps us make more content. Secondly, if this video hits 300 likes by the end of the week, we will continue this what if. And thirdly, if you didn't know, only 41.3% of you are subscribed to us, so please hit the subscribe button and click the notification icon. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the story. The events at today's hero ranking announcement finally took its toll as Shoto's had his foot at his threshold, tired yet satisfied nonetheless. He took in the silence, allowing peace to drape itself upon him, bringing today's reality to his heart. Somehow he felt like a child who received the best gift, as if Christmas arrived early, salvation within his fingertips, power and hope coursing through his veins. Decide who you want to become, and be all you can be. His mother's whisper upon his mind, like an echo of a long-forgotten past that should be. It could have been that way, only if it wasn't his mantra all these years. Something he could have held onto with his vice grip, never planning to let go. It was a spark that caused his resolve to spread like wildfire inside of him. He'll forever be grateful to his mother, despite what happened. Upon starting to remove the articles of clothing from his hero costume, he wasn't able to stop himself from looking into his very own reflection. The denominator frequent to every hero in the field, the signature of their plight to dedicate themselves for the greater good, battle scars. However, some scars sat even before the coming of All Might's gift. The discolorated marks which crafted themselves as his quirks manifested at 4, much to the delight of the retired #1 hero, his father, his nightmare of his life, Enji Todoroki, retired pro-hero Endeavor. Todoroki household approximately 20 years ago. Shoto stood happily in front of his parents, his quirk finally manifesting, surprisingly freezing half the household and almost burning the other half. He was apprehensive as to how his parents would react, given the state of their home, but fated as to Enji's delight echoed. His proud gaze darted upon his currently favored child.
Shoto, my child, the fulfillment of my dreams,
He chanted, strong arms wrapping itself upon Shoto's small figure, face puzzled as to the meaning of his father's word, yet delighted as any child would upon a parent's affection. Much to his dismay, the ebbing affection of his father morphed into something that would haunt him until the day that he releases his final breath. Things started escalating quickly from that, as Enji Todoroki started drilling his ambitions and principles into his son, abruptly turned his son into the manifestation of what makes a true hero, obviously starting to neglect that Shoto was only just around 6 years old, innocent of what lies ahead. He wasn't allowed to associate himself with his siblings, whom his father considered failures. That time, Shoto could recall his eyes sparkled at the sight of his siblings, laughter, their hollering as they playfully hit each other with a ball. Playful banter of children who mindlessly enjoyed the time together. It was nice to play with them. He thought maybe he could ask his father to allow him, as it is weird enough that he wasn't allowed to play with his siblings. Shoto! The eldest, Toya called, laughter taking it in between as he tried to form the next words. Play with us? It was what he most wanted every time he could be allowed, and those times were rare. His siblings still asked him, probably hoping for him to be permitted. Then a ball hit the eldest brother as another smug laugh came from a white-haired boy, Natsuo. His gray orbs beamed at him with kindness and just pure playfulness. Come here, Shoto. Let's have fun, shall we? A smile crossed Shoto's face. He felt so warm. For that moment, the memories of his training escaped his mind. As his only sister, Fuyumi, gestured for him to come, the same inviting smile sent towards him as the rest of his brothers. It would be fun to have you around, Shoto. As what used to be faint footsteps of his father getting closer each passing second that felt like a minute, hope bloomed upon his chest. The progress was notable. Maybe he can—
We're heading straight to training,
Enji declared, large hands grabbing his smaller one as he just saw himself getting dragged. Much to his dismay, before his question could roll off his lips, it was like his father could read his mind.
Let them be, Shoto. You're not bound to associate with those failures. You are a masterpiece,
His father said. The hope that just threatened to bloom to his chest died. Maybe some other time, he told himself as he allowed himself to be taken into the training room once more. When all is well. Meanwhile, during their times of training, weakness and admission of defeat weren't exactly welcomed. His occasional protest of his father's methodology remained unheard. He feels the stomach churn from the contact his stomach received from his father's fist as his knees met the ground. His body bent over while he spilled out what he must have eaten before the training started. The whole of Shoto's senses filled with the pain inflicted by his father.
If you would be that weak, you could forget about beating All Might. You won't even survive in the face of a small-time villain.
Enji berated, Not even a trace of concern faded from his face, nor the eyes that held his dark gaze towards his son. Shoto failed to calm his churning insides, could only weep, hoping for the pain to subside, and he suddenly felt the cold yet soothing touch of his mother, Rei Todoroki, crouched down and took hold of her son. Her gray orbs meeting her husband's unyielding look. She knew better than to stop him, for it leads to worse things. She loved her son, and mothers do not just watch their child get unjustifiably beaten by others. "He is just a child," she called out, pulling Shoto closer in her arms, her fingers carding through his hair in an attempt to soothe the child out of his pain. "Take it easy on him." Rei dared to call out her husband's actions. Then silence befell upon their shared space, only to be cut by the sounds of Rei's cries and whimpers from taking the hits from Enji, as he declared through his yell not to tell him what to do. Afterward, the list of endeavors abusive parenting went on too long, so much so, Shoto lost count, but every piece of it was remembered, carved into his young mind. Resolved to get away from him at his first chance he got, hasn't steeled himself, until the first time he received a scar. The scar that identified him, the mark of his father's misery bestowed upon his mother. In one of the evenings in the Todoroki household, Shoto wandered as he found himself settling upon the space before the kitchen doors, curious by the muffled noise of his mother as she conversed over the phone.
"I can't raise him anymore."
His mother sounded so broken, helpless, atop to those she seemed hopeless. She tried to hold out her sob, her shoulder visibly shaking from the attempt that she decided to continue with what she was saying.
"Every time I look into his face, I can only see him, be reminded of his harshness."
Now Shoto's curiosity has peaked, so he decided to approach his mother in genuine concern. He might be too young for these things, the pain with the hatred and fear that swelled inside of him. And so with his gentle voice, he made his presence known. "Mom?" It seemed like a whisper. Surely the volume was enough to get his mother's attention, the fear being plastered across her face as she grabbed the kettle that just whistled a while ago. He never saw the end of it as he felt the pain of hot boiling water upon his skin, the last sight of seeing cold hatred upon his mother's eyes that used to be directed at him lovingly. Shoto never knew which hurt more until there was only darkness. Thus the scar presented, his mother gone upon his wake. "Mom, where is she?" He inquired about his mother. He won't even look at him as he faced the window instead.
She was delusional, thinking she could hurt you, my masterpiece. So I brought her to the hospital.
Anger had finally swelled inside Shoto Todoroki at the tender age of 6. It manifested as tears ran down from his eyes down to his cheek. He could also be wrong. It could be loathing. The man, the bastard of a father who considered his other children failures. The man who treated his wife like nothing but a tool to bring forth him. The one he calls a masterpiece to fulfill his broken dreams. Above all the loss he had, the only thing that remained was his scar being the sole reminder just how much of a bastard his father was. Present time. His digits outlined over his face, his bang tucked by the same hand as he takes a good look upon the first scar he ever got. Well, this is nostalgic, he thought to himself, amused by the recollection he just had, wondering if this is the effect of the euphoria and the fading adrenaline he felt when he stood a while ago at the awarding ceremony. Chuckling to himself, he found his digits tracing over the scar seating upon his left arm. It was a nostalgic one. Shoto had it under the training with All Might by the beach a few months ago, before the recommendation exams. He so well remembers those days he snuck up from their house to meet the similar piece for the quirk training, or how he slowly changed his whole training regimen at home, keeping it low for his new quirk to go unnoticed by his father. His weird notification ringtone seemed to pierce through his momentary repose, grounding his wandering mind back towards the present. "Shit, you half-and-half bastard!" was the first line, yet he waited for a few moments before letting the dead silence of the voice message play through, just letting the voice of his obnoxious classmate, Bakugo Kosuke, echoed in his place. "You ain't catching a break! Debriefing starts at 5 a.m. Just a few more hours, he thought. He still had time, both for rest as well as going back for throwback sessions that comes along with the viewing of his scars. Peaceful times don't come easy. Might as well make the best out of it. By pure coincidence, as Shoto turned around, allowing himself to take his feet towards the bed before he resumed his recollection to lull himself, his eyes caught the soft glimmer of a silver medal by the golden ones that bear the markings of UA. Crossing his arms as his back met the softness of his bed, eyes still focused upon the set of the hanging medal. Despite the silver one being of less value, the memory concealed in it was the most valuable to him, to his growth, especially for his emotional freedom at this young age of 15.
Shoto!
He shuddered at hearing the voice of his father, even if it was just in his head in the moment. But what marked in his head above those was having to accept the side he rejected most. The acceptance itself was freedom from misery, induced by the man that biologically brought him to life, and the fulfillment of a promise to his mentor that saved him from right at the day they first encountered each other. As the final waves of fatigue washed over Todoroki Shoto, the view of the metal's soft glow finally went into a blur, his sight filled with black spots of sleepiness. He could feel the unbearable weight of his eyelids as they slid down, while the cheers, shouts, and explosions from that time he got the silver medal still having itself played at the back of his head. Thank you all for watching at the end of the video. Now there's a few more things I'd like to go over before the video ends. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank the writer for this video, as well as the editor for this video. Their details will be in the description below. If you're a voice actor, editor, or a writer, or you're interested in becoming one of those, go to the Discord that is in the description of this video and hit up one of the heads of those areas. We're always looking for new members to join us. That's it from today's video, so thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and hit the like button if you liked the video. Until next time, peace out mortals, have an amazing day!